Welcome back to another jam-packed edition of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the winter-like confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. This episode will be episode 153, NFL Week 14 recap. Happy to be with you guys again, as always. Like I said, this is going to be covering a bunch of different games. We're going to be talking about Texans Chiefs. We're going to talk about outcome of that game, which eventually led to the de facto fallout of the Chiefs being eliminated versus the Chargers the following week. Bears versus Packers. Bengals, Bills, Lions, Cowboys. The magnitude of all those games in Week 14 and what it shaped for Week 15 and how that all played out. As always, like I said, as you guys will see here on the screen of some of our friends of the show, definitely want to give a shout out to StubHub and Viagogo, the number 1 and number 2 leading ticket resellers in the world for live events, shows, and concerts. Check out the events here for this holiday season. As you guys see, a plethora of things to do right now going into 2026. Make sure you guys are, taking advantage of it and enjoying your holidays as best as possible. And as for my avid gamers out there, again, big Christmas sale that PlayStation has going on right now. Definitely check it here on the screen. You'll see the promotion offer. The description will be, the link will be in the description box for the video. So don't forget to check this out, guys. Once in a lifetime opportunity. Definitely something to end your 2026 off right if you're a PlayStation fan. And as always, Sony PlayStation, more than a game. All right, guys. So getting into this, like I said, Texans and Chiefs wrap up. Wow. First of all, I think we can officially say the dynasty is over. The Chiefs have definitely played well when you think about a 7-year stretch of football where they've been one of the more dominant teams in football, they definitely have contended, either been in the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl. So obviously, prolific run, only comparable to the New England Patriots. You have to give them a shitload of credit for what they've done. Outside of that, though, this year has been a fucking mess. They have not been able to win close games. It's been well documented this year. That has been a struggle. I think it's been really the Achilles heel of this team. They're statistically better than what they've been in previous seasons, but it was games like this where they would have won last year, maybe the year prior. This year, they're not winning those games. And you got to give the Texans credit, defeating the Chiefs 20-10. And again, a lot of people, myself included, expected the Chiefs to show up in this game, backs against the wall, championship poised. Now, granted, they're obviously not the champions this year, but, championship pedigree. You expected, okay, they're definitely going to step up. They're definitely going to, rise to the occasion and do what is necessary to win this game. Everything was tough for them. Everything was tough. The Texans just went in there and brought the fight to them. You got to give the Texans defense a shitload of credit. Texans defense went in there with an attitude and a swagger and a mindset where it was just we won't be denied. This will not happen again. Pat won't escape. We're going to make sure we make the necessary plays. Now, they only got 2 sacks on them, but when you think about the tackles for a loss, they had 2, but they had 7 passes defended, which I think is the telltale number, for the statistics, because essentially those 7 passes defended led and pretty much helped the Texans kind of stamp out, what the Chiefs were trying to do offensively. And also quarterback pressures. They pressured, Pat Mahomes 8 times. So they really got after that offensive line. So again, shout out to the Texans for their defensive effort. But, when you go throughout the game, it came down. The game was pretty boring to start. It was very tight. You could tell the tension was there. The teams were trying to figure out what they were going to do. And then eventually it just led to a situation where the Texans, biting at, little bites at the elephant, little bites. Because, the old adage is, to eat an elephant, it takes, you got to take small chunks. That's what the Texans did in this game. They took small chunks of the field, capitalized on their opportunities, and pretty much, every time they got in a situation where they were within the red zone, they pretty much did what the fuck they needed to do to win. Excellent. D'Amico Ryans will not get a lot of credit for this, but he definitely, the way this team has kind of galvanized itself after the start that they had, all the turmoil, injuries. We all forget Tank Dell broke his fucking leg in the same stadium a year ago. So there's a lot of bad mojo and bad, energy just going on in that stadium for this team. To be able to right the ship early on, get this team back in the hunt for the division title, fuck alone just the playoffs, the division title, and then to go into a stadium and go against a team that has had your number relatively, for most of your franchise's history. And especially during the Pat Mahomes era, it was an incredible win. Like I said, hats off to D'Amico Ryans and the whole Texas crew. Now, the thing that I think is really another thing that was very a decisive factor going into this game, the third down efficiency. The Chiefs were 4 of 14 on third down. So you're talking about 28% in comparison to the Texans going 8 of 18, 44%. Converting those third downs and keeping those drives alive, sometimes where they weren't getting touchdowns and they were able to settle for field goals, or just play that field position game where they made it tough for the Chiefs to go from end zone to score. Got to give the Texans a shitload of credit for that. Then, of course, what I really want to speak to, which I think is something that it just speaks to the karma and the bad energy that's just been around the Chiefs this year. Your halftime was kind of like going into halftime was kind of like the first indicator that something was wrong, which is kind of crazy because I've watched them throughout the season, but really what was very striking to me was in that game against Houston, where you got Harrison Butker, who, let's be honest, probably one of the top 3, top 5 kickers within the past 5-7 years, hands down. I mean, definitely one of the best playoff kickers of all time. So not even a question there. For him to miss a field goal at halftime, and I'm looking here at my notes because I want to make sure I'm getting this right. He missed that field goal. You go, and you went right into halftime. And it was weird. It was weird. And then 87, like he's having a weird year where 87.9% on extra points, where he's missing extra points. Where the Chiefs are actually, so think about what I'm saying. That's where the Chiefs are actually scoring touchdowns, finishing drives, and then the kicker is not executing the field goal correctly. That's alarming. And then 84.6% on field goal percentage is like third worst of his career. The 87.9 is the second worst percentage of his career on extra points. So it's weird because, again, if you look at any normal kicker, those are good numbers. But for Harrison Butker, it's clearly a decline. It speaks to a lot of different things that goes to this team and that's wrong with this team. But I think really Andy Reid showed that the true problem was desperation. He got desperate and he decided that he was going to do whatever it took for this team to win this game. And what do I mean by that? Because I disagree with his decision making. Just so that way I don't leave any mystery with this. 1 of 3 on fourth down. Now, I know that you get into situations a lot of times where you got to make clear and decisive decisions where, okay, we're down, offense isn't clicking. You got to make decisions. I understand. If I'm correct, now I want to make sure, because I'm looking at static NFL statistics, so I definitely want to make sure I have this in the notes for you guys so you can check it out, just in case I'm wrong. I don't want to misspeak. But there was a play, I want to say it was somewhere in the third quarter. There was a sequence where the Chiefs got in the red zone. Once they were in the red zone, well, not in the red zone, excuse me, they were on their side of the field. While they were on their side of the field, it was clear, like, okay, you're on your 30-yard line. You're clearly going to punt this ball. And the Chiefs went for it. The game wasn't in the balance yet. Nothing had been decided yet. And at that moment, it was like Andy Reid just decided, we're going to go for it. We're going to be aggressive. And I'm like, oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, it really did not make any. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and it excuse me, and it was in I'm looking here at the notes now. It was in the fourth quarter. So it was the fourth quarter. I do apologize. I'm glad I was looking at the notes. So it was in the fourth quarter. You're talking about the 11:25 mark in the fourth quarter. You're not even down yet. You're not even down by major points. Like at this point, it's like, okay, we can hold them. This has been a tight game. Turnover on downs. And then again, the next possession, turnover on downs. So you went for it twice on fourth down. Then obviously Pat throws the interception at the end of the game. The game fucking reeked of desperation on Andy Reid's part. And Andy Reid and Brett Veach, they really have to be the ones to wear the brunt of this, because I want to make sure I'm getting this very clear across to you people. When you think about the Andy Reid era, and I can go all the way back to Philadelphia, there was, like, outside of LaShawn Shady McCoy, shout out to Shady, outside of Brian Westbrook, even for a period of time, Deuce Staley, Andy did not like running the football. There would be periods of seasons, and I know because I witnessed, there would be durations of seasons where Brian Westbrook would go 4 or 5 games of not really touching the football. Shady McCoy sometimes would, you're talking about a guy who minimum 1,300 yard rusher. This guy would go 2-3 games without having significant touches or impact on the game. I screamed then, okay, this is Andy's philosophy. He likes to throw. We all knew this. He gets to Kansas City. He adapts. He has Jamal Charles, shady-like, not exactly the same running back, but shady-like. He eventually gets Pat Mahomes in there. He had Alex Smith in the beginning. They start putting it together. It looks real reminiscent of what he did in Philadelphia. Okay. And then after you build some cash in, some success, and you win like he's won, no one's going to really question your moves too much, a la Bill Belichick. But when you really, break it down, you're talking about some of the dumbest fucking decision making. We have to remember, this is the same guy that hired Juan Castillo as the defensive coordinator, and he was the offensive line coach in Philadelphia. So, leading all this to say, Andy and Brett V shit the bed with getting Pat Mahomes a running game. Not having a consistent running game destroyed this team. Isaiah Pacheco, shout out to Isaiah Pacheco from Violent, New Jersey. Decent running back, not the guy. You got to get somebody in there that's going to be able to be efficient consistently. Good backup running back. I even like Kareem Hunt, but even he's a bit past his prime. Short yardage back, good in some passing situations, but nowhere near the player he used to be. God knows Travis Kelce isn't. At this point, why the fuck hasn't Kelce retired? Bro, literally, you got one of the hottest celebrity, girlfriends, soon to be wives in the world. You got a shitload of money. You're going to go down as arguably the best tight end in NFL history. You're going to go down as one of the best pass-catching players or receivers or tight ends in NFL history, especially in the postseason. Why the fuck are you still playing? The Super Bowl was indicative enough. Quit. And it's just he bullshitted, hemmed and hawed on it. There's a lot going on. This team possibly, especially with Pat being injured now, after the Chargers game, tearing the ACL, there's a lot that's going to have to go into next year where he's going to have to possibly, reevaluate, where the season is going to be a little bit weird for them in the beginning. Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, it's on the table that they possibly don't come back. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say it. This team needs a revitalization. Now, most teams that have dynastic runs, there's usually 2 iterations. It's like a 5 to 7 year stretch, and then there's another 5 to 7 year stretch, give or take, unless you're New England, where it's 20 years. But they got to hit the reset button. It was very indicative in this game, not being able to beat this Texans team. And again, shout out to the Texans for just, putting belt to ass when they needed to and closing the door. But it's very revealing right now how things are playing out. And it just shows that somewhere within these one of these last 2 Super Bowl runs, they spent money in the wrong direction. Maybe not getting Breece Hall this year at the trade deadline definitely was stupid. Definitely something that they could possibly reconsider, but this is definitely a pattern of Andy Reid's, and we got to see him. We got to hold him to atonement if next year we don't see them, address the running game in a significant way, because there's no way you can have Patrick Mahomes out there and think that you can continue to play like that and have him getting his ACL fucking blown out and him being your leading rusher, and that's going to lead to victory. It's just, it's a recipe for disaster. And I think Andy had going through this before, and having a guy like Mahomes now, he's going to learn from this. But again, key takeaway, dynasty's over. And second, most importantly, Texans have a chance to win the AFC South. Didn't see that early on, especially with the way they played, but them and the Texans and the Jaguars are definitely going to be contending for the South. So going to be interesting to see going towards the end of the year. Definitely going to be excited to see it. So interesting football playing out in the AFC. Going to the next game, we're going to talk about a division game here, a very good division game that wound up playing out very, very well. What it boils down to is the Packers and Bears wound up being a classic game, thank God. Didn't look like it was going to be early on with the way the Packers were dominating the game defensively, but and offensively, period, too. But got to give the Bears credit, got to give Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and that defense a shitload of credit. Dennis Allen, those guys, they really put a game plan together in that second half and got it together, but that's kind of glossing over things. When you're the Bears, coming off a great victory on Black Friday against the Eagles the previous week, beating the Steelers the week before that, You're going into this game with all the momentum. You're like, hey, yeah, the Packers feeling good, but we feeling good too. We really feel like we could threaten this year and really do some damage and really show these motherfuckers we could play. Well, didn't look good. Didn't look good. And I think the glaring thing that was very evident from this game was that Caleb Williams clearly is not really ready yet to really take the full mantle and brunt, put this team on his shoulders yet. He wasn't able to make throws early in the game that were just inexplicable. Plays that he probably makes in his sleep normally, just couldn't do it. Looked bad early on to the point where the team, just to give you an indication, this is the Bears' first quarter. Punt, punt, punt. Second quarter, field goal, punt. So let's just say the first half clearly was just, shit the bed fest. Clearly nowhere near what the Bears were looking for and trying to do, and just a game plan out of whack. Packers did whatever they wanted. Got to give a lot of credit to Jeff Hafley in that first half. I'll touch on the second half shortly, but in that first half, Jeff Hafley had a very good game plan for quelling whatever Caleb Williams was very good at. The bootlegs, the motions, and a lot of that motion that Ben Johnson likes to run. Jeff Hafley was prepared for it. He knew where the diversion was going. He knew where the play, the distractions going here, the ball's being ran this way. So clearly, Hafley had a plan. However, that second half, and I do mean the second half with emphasis, was almost a disaster for the Green Bay Packers. It was kind of crazy because throughout the game, you see Michael Parsons making plays, and for some reason, Rashawn Gary just disappeared. Now, Jeff Hafley definitely got questions about this after the game. It's been a several game stretch now where Rashawn Gary has not been visible on defense, and it's kind of startling. Obviously, with the news of Michael Parsons tearing his ACL against Denver, that did not help. So there's a lot of questions going on as to where Rashawn Gary has been at. This game against Chicago definitely was one of them where there are a lot of questions were still being asked. But the credit really should be given to the Bears and Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams for how they rebounded in the second half. Caleb Williams was able to make some impressive plays, extend the drives, make throws down the field. Just looking here, I want to make sure I'm looking at their third down efficiency. 50% on third down. Now, the Packers were fucking excellent. They were 66% on third down. You'll take that at any game. But 50% is damn good, too. And it was really more in the second half, them converting those necessary third downs. The running game got going, too. You can see that was going for them a little bit. Now, when you think about net rushing yards, both teams did not run the ball. When you talk about the Bears, obviously their rushing attack was predicates a lot for their offense. So they had 138 rushing yards. Packers had 117. I want to look at Josh Jacobs' numbers because I forget exactly what he ended up with for the game. But I remember correctly, he had an impact, 20 attempts, 86 yards, and he had a touchdown. So again, both teams were relying on a running game, but Jordan Love was hella efficient, 17 to 25, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. But Caleb Williams, that second half, got to give him credit for what he did. Played well, brought the team within, cuffs of winning the game. Got all the way to the Packers 20 late in the game. And literally, when you get that close and you can't finish a drive, that's backbreaking. Literally, you got to the Packers 14-yard line and threw an interception in the red zone. I think me looking at it, even the Eagles game, watching that game, Caleb Williams can't be trusted. He cannot be trusted. Maybe next year he'll be better off at the quarterback position where he'll make a lot of these throws and necessary plays, but this guy is clearly nowhere near where he needs to be. It's very indicative, and it shows. He can't make some of the necessary easy throws that should just come natural to a quarterback. And every quarterback has flaws and deficiencies. So I'm not trying to say that every guy is fucking perfect and that, God forbid, he can never get better. I'm just saying to you right now, he's going to be the reason that the Bears don't advance in the playoffs. Bears fans need to prepare themselves for this. NFL fans alike who casually watch, prepare yourself. Caleb Williams, maybe an interception, maybe a turnover, maybe a back-breaking sack and turnover. Something's going to happen where this guy is not going to be trusted in the postseason. He's going to cost the team a game. So, got to give the Bears credit that they were in it at the end, but Packers definitely held serve. Jeff Hafley definitely has to be disappointed with the Packers' second half performance. They were giving up a lot of yards and third down. Again, when you give up all those necessary third downs, and granted, I will contest that Micah Parsons was being held on a shitload of those plays. But when you're not getting those stops, it keeps the defense out there longer. Then when the offense isn't completing the drives that they necessarily need to complete, that's causing you to just, be out of whack. And again, you look at the Packers, possession chart here. You're looking at a situation where third quarter, you're talking about punt, touchdown, punt. So you had 2 drives in there where you got nothing, led to the Bears pretty much being able to get back in it. Defensively, you couldn't stop them. I mean, you gave up a touchdown where they got pretty much all the way to the 1 and scored if you're Chicago. And then you get to the Bears, you get to the Packers 23 and they kick a field goal. So, not the greatest performance. I mean, definitely not the worst, but if the Packers really want to compete, they cannot have performances like that in the second half of games, especially where your defense has a lead and then you're playing a division rival at home and they're able to climb back into it and get that close to stealing it from you. I mean, again, got to give the Packers defense and Keyshawn Nixon credit for getting the interception, but a lot of things need to be adjusted there for Green Bay. But I think it's very simple. Key takeaways, Caleb Williams can't be trusted, and the Packers control the North. I strongly believe the Packers are going to win the NFC North. There's no reason or indication why I don't think that will happen. I mean, to be quite honest with you, I've thought all along that the Packers were going to possibly, win this game or win the division. I know there was a lot of joy when it came to Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and what these guys prepared to do and what their game plan was going forward. But we have to be honest. Experience fucking matters. And I get tired of people a lot of times trying to make it seem like experience doesn't matter or you can just kind of, float through the bullshit. You'll get through sometimes. But when the games really matter, your flaws will be exposed. It'll show. So that being said, shout out to the Packers for getting the win. And they'll be playing each other again in a week. So we'll see who wins the North. But a lot on the line for Chicago. Wicked schedule going down the stretch. We'll see how things play out. Let's see here. And now going to our next game, we're going to go to Bengals and Bills. And what a fucking game this was. Needless to say, I thought the way this game was playing out, I thought with all honesty, the Bengals were going to win this game. The Bengals are going to win this game. Both teams' defenses are not good. Just, no apologies needed there. Both defenses are not good. You're in a situation where you're like, okay, Bengals, first half, they've scored on, let's see. They had 3 possessions where they scored 21 points. You're like, okay, it's 21-11 at halftime. There's no way in hell that the Bills are going to come back. It's snowing. Yeah, it just seems like Josh Allen, the guys just don't have it today. And thank God that Josh Allen woke up and that the Bills defense woke up because it turned into a shootout. Now, I'm fast forwarding a bit because I want to get to some key points in the game. Obviously, the Bengals lost the game. They blew the game 39-34. They allowed the Bills to pretty much come back and win it. But there's things in this game that really were just highlighted to me that I want to point out. Number one, the Bengals cannot be trusted. The Bengals came in this game with slim playoff chances at best, but still a playoff chance. Joe Burrow coming back, playing well the past couple weeks, team playing better. You just figure they're going to play well enough in this game to win this game. They've won in Buffalo. They've won in the postseason in Buffalo. They know how to win in this place. They're going to do their job. They come out playing like that. And then the second half was just a fucking disaster, a moribund disaster that just, Joe Burrow has to wear, and that's my number 2 point. Joe Burrow has to wear credit for this. You fucking blew the game for your team. My God, 2 interceptions late in that second half. You're talking about turnovers. There's no way in hell. You get the Bills to turn the ball over. You're getting possessions back, and you can't do shit with it. And then you're relying on a defense who, and as I've said, typically when they've won the turnover battle, they win those games. They didn't win the turnover battle in this game. As a matter of fact, let me take a look. They had, let's see here. Yeah, because Josh Allen and them only had, let's see. Yeah, Josh had no interceptions. Let's see about any fumbles. Yeah, so again, lost. You won a game where you had a game where they lost the turnover battle. You're looking at it where it's like, okay, the Bengals got two forced fumbles. Now they recovered one of them. So again, and you forgot another fumble, but it was out of bounds. So again, you don't really count that too much. So you win it, you lose the turnover battle, you lose the game. So again, it's just one of those things where their defense is very much relying on turnovers. If they can't get the necessary amount of turnovers to stop or stem the offense from getting into the red zone, they're not going to win the game. So it was just indicative of how bad, again, their fucking defense is this year. They can't be trusted. Number 2, Josh Allen is a fucking monster. I would not have an argument if he wins MVP this year. And again, I think Josh Allen gets a mega pass for a lot of things. But this year, this performance alone, easily you can argue he should be MVP of the league. I mean, again, 22 of 28, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, ran 9 times for 78 yards and a rushing touchdown. He literally brought this team back. I mean, obviously defense and their effort, getting a pick 6 definitely helps. So you can't just scoff at that. But Josh Allen literally, it was tale of 2 quarterbacks essentially. In the first half, Joe Burrow was rising to the occasion. Josh Allen was, not playing well enough for the team to win. And in the second half, he steps up, the defense gets better, and Joe Burrow implodes. So, again, got to get the Bills credit, but really, really right now for Josh Allen and the Bills, we got to be honest, this might be their clearest path at getting to the Super Bowl. I mean, you have no Patrick Mahomes. There's a chance you might not have to worry about Lamar Jackson. Maybe. This might be their greatest chance, and I know everybody's going to say, well, Denver's in their way, and, this might be their single greatest chance at possibly, getting to the Super Bowl, because I'll be honest with you, we know they can obviously beat New England. I think they could beat Denver. Denver is a very good team, but I think Denver sometimes they get a pass because their defense is so fucking good. Their offense is very stagnant at times and very limited. And it's kind of weird when you think about Sean Payton and the guy and his offensive prowess. But that being said, the Bills have a clear chance of possibly going to the Super Bowl this year. And I think that can't be scoffed at. And I think that Josh Allen for MVP is definitely something that must be considered. And last but not least, which brought some joy to my heart, we're going to talk about the de facto elimination game that was on Thursday Night Football in Week 14, which was the Lions versus Cowboys. Lions were able to pull out the victory in a shootout, 44-30, but I need not bullshit at you all and just, bloviate over the point. The Cowboys blew this fucking game. The Cowboys, and it's funny because they had it all in front of them. Eagles had stumbled a bit. They had got on a little winning streak. There was a chance they could possibly get into the postseason, possibly even win the NFC East. Okay. Everybody's like, damn, what are they going to do? Anybody with a brain knew. All the Eagles have to do is just get it together and this shit is over. But everybody wanted to give hope in the Dallas Cowboys. They were playing well enough. Thursday Night Football, Lions on the ropes. Lions did come off a victory, did come off that loss on Thanksgiving against the Packers. So everyone assumed Cowboys got this game. Oh, the disappointment. Woo! Oh, the disappointment. First of all, you're starting off the game where the Lions are able to get down the field. They get a field goal. Really, put the pressure on Dallas, where Dallas is now like, okay, we got to definitely match that energy. They get in the red zone, can't score, have to settle for a field goal. Both teams don't do anything with it. Okay. And then the game really kicks off the end of the first quarter where the Lions get that first touchdown. Okay, game opens up from there. If you're Dallas, the turnovers, the random late Dak Prescott late in the season Dak Prescott games where he's turning the ball over inexplicably for dumbass reasons, all these things are going to pop up. But somehow there was false hope that they were going to overcome all these things. The Ferguson fumble definitely killed them. The Dak Prescott interception in the third quarter, which just debilitated the drive. You go back and you look, and I'm looking here at the stats because I want to make sure I'm reading this off to you correctly. You go back and look at the stats of when that interception happened. They literally, let's see here, Detroit Lions. Yep, right here. I mean, you're talking about in the third quarter where you get all the way to, I mean, you didn't even get out of your red zone. You didn't even get out of your red zone. You gave the Lions points. So no shock there. Short field, score on a touchdown. At this point, it's 27-9. That's what I'm fast forwarding you to do because I didn't want to bore you. At this point, it's 27-9. You think it's going to be a blowout. Cowboys are able to muster a comeback, get some points. Dak, leads the team down the field. They get a touchdown. Lions miss a field goal, so the game gets a little bit interesting. Aubrey hits a field goal. And then in the fourth quarter, it just boiled down to what we always know. Though the Cowboys will make it interesting, they're going to fuck it up. And that's essentially what happened late in the game. The pressure was really on the Lions to win this game. And the Cowboys came in feeling good, feeling, great, beating the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, beating the Eagles a week prior. They really felt like everything was in their hands. And that false hope, that delusional dichotomy of where you're just like, we got it in our hands if the flaws you've had all season that have been exposed throughout the season don't exist, as if you weren't in a mathematical equation where you couldn't afford to lose any more fucking games and you could still, it was just delusional at best. But that game essentially ended the playoff chances for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know they lost the following week to Minnesota, and that technically did it, but this game really did it. Because had the Cowboys won this game, it would have made things very interesting for them and Philly going down the stretch in the NFC East. But once this game was lost, it was pretty much a done deal for the Cowboys. And you got to give the Lions credit. And, I mean, ultimately, the Lions knew they needed to win. They have to win a lot of games just to even make the postseason. So, got to give them a shitload of credit. Dan Campbell had the guys ready. And definitely beat the Cowboys again. They blew them out the year prior, 47-9. This game was a lot closer, obviously, 44-30, but got to give the Lions credit. Now, key takeaways from this game. Bye-bye, Dallas. Good fucking riddance. Number 2, I think the Lions are possibly where the Chiefs are at, but the difference is they might make the playoffs and feel a little bit better about their prospects. The Lions need to refresh their roster. Without any question, the Lions need to refresh their roster. You cannot consistently tell me that the injuries they've had, the losses they've had at key positions, losing certain guys on the roster, I mean, it's too much. Obviously, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator thing has not worked. They're definitely going to have to find some guys this offseason. That's number one and number 1A. Number 2, you're going to have to refresh and kind of, hit a little fast forward button on this roster because let's just be honest. You're paying Jameson Williams, you're paying Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're paying Jared Goff. Now, his contract becomes a little bit more interesting after next year. You're paying Penei Sewell. You got to kind of figure out what can you get out of this orange before the juice runs dry because it's getting harder in the NFC now. You're not catching anyone by surprise anymore. It's very indicative of how it's played out this season. So what the future of this roster may be is going to be very weird to see and very strange at some point, but got to give the Lions credit. They're still fighting for it. But yeah, that's essentially going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I love you for plugging in. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.